Okay, everybody, we are going to learn a little bit more about elements, compounds, and mixtures. As you can see here is some molecule arrangement, and we're going to get into what that means through this presentation. So what is an element? All right, an element is any material that cannot be broken down into more fundamental substances. So what does that mean? It means that they're the simplest substances. They simply just cannot be broken down, even with a chemical reaction. So the main thing about elements is that they're found naturally on Earth, and some are man-made, but they still cannot be broken down any further. Some basic examples of elements that can be found on the periodic table are gold, oxygen, helium, and iron. So when these atoms are found, when these atoms exist, that is just the basic that they can be. They cannot change into anything else. So element is kind of like our starting ground. Now a compound is one step up. A compound is a substance formed when two or more chemical elements are chemically bonded together. All right, so what does this mean? It means that atoms are bonded or they're somehow chemically connected to the atoms of other elements. Okay, so for example, salt is made out of two elements. It's made out of sodium and it's made out of chloride. And what happens is there's negative and positive particles that attract to each other, kind of like magnets do. And when they do that, they form something completely different when we get our table salt. Other bonds are a little bit different. Like this is sugar, right? The formula for sugar is C6H12O6. What this means is that there's 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 6 oxygen atoms. And they share electrons together, and that's how they are connected to one another. And we'll delve more into that when we get into the periodic table next week. Now, what is a mixture? Pretty plain and straightforward. It's two or more substances that do not chemically combine, right? So this salad obviously is not chemically combined together. It could very easily pick out the avocados, the tomatoes, the corn, the bacon, with my hands or with hopefully a fork. And then the Kool-Aid here, all right, this is something called a solution. And solutions are when substances are mixed with water. And here they can still, even though it looks like it can't be separated, they actually still can be by a number of tools. So I want you to start thinking about how might you start to, separate something that looks like that. So there's two types of mixtures, right? And they kind of have these names you probably haven't heard when you're speaking normally. So we have heterogeneous and homogeneous. Now this word geneous comes from a root word and it just means type. All it just means is the kind that it is. All right, now homogeneous is when uniform composition and properties throughout. What that means is the same. That's all this prefix here means. So for example, this lemonade is a liquid, all right? It's a solution. Whether it is, in the freezer or it's outside, it's going to melt and evaporate depending on, what the conditions are. It also looks the same. It also has the same color. It has the same volume. So homogeneous mixtures look exactly the same and have the same properties. Now, heterogeneous is a little bit different. So it's any combination of substances that does not have uniform composition and properties. Hetero prefix, that means different. So for example, this Chex Mix that I see here, there's M&Ms, there's Chex, there's pretzels, okay? And so if I were to leave this outside, the chocolate would obviously melt while the Chex would stay intact. These different snacks, the pretzels, the Chex, and the M&Ms all have different volumes. They have different shapes, they have different textures and colors. So not only are they more easily separated, but they also have various properties as well. So this flow chart or molecule arrangement kind of shows you, where we start with matter and how it can be broken down. So all matter fits into one category. Then we go into pure substances and mixtures. Our pure substances, that's where we're going to find our elements and our compounds. Even though compounds are made up of two elements, they're still pure substances, okay? And that's because of their chemical bonds or their chemical connections. Now mixtures, all right, we have our homogeneous mixtures. And what we see here is we see different molecules that are blended together, where in a heterogeneous mixture, there's a bunch of different types that are all over the place, right? So this would be in something like water. This would be a solution. This would be something like a salad or the Chex Mix, or even pizza, is a mixture, right? Any two substances that don't combine together and have different properties. Over here in our pure substances, our element molecules are just one. And then compounds, all right, they're connected because they're chemically bonded together. So as you complete your roadmap activities this week, you can use this presentation to help you make your diagram and to also complete the lab stations as well. And obviously, let me know if you have any questions.